Welcome to this week's Dose of Emuna for Shabbat Kodesh, Shabbat Yearning. The idea when we say on Kiddush, Vayechulu Hashamayim, in Hebrew, the words for Vayechulu means to finish, but it also has the same root letters as yearning. So in other words, Vayechulu indicates not only a completion of creation, but also that the heaven and the earth also at that time, in the onset of Shabbat, yearned for the Creator. And this is also expressed even in Perek Shira, the Song of Creation. The reason why we recite Vayechulu on Friday night, Kabbalat Shabbat, is so that we too will enhance our yearning for Hashem at this most important time, the beginning of Shabbat, when all of creation is basically uplifted. We have to keep in mind, we should strive to keep in mind, that all of creation turns to Hashem, and we all have this heightened yearning. And we too, when we say Vayechulu, we should also feel as though our soul is so much in yearning for Hashem's closeness that we were waiting for this moment to once again feel and try to connect back to Hashem. Because during the week, all week long, we have time, we can ponder Hashem, and we also desire to connect to Hashem, but there are so many forces that blemish our desires, and it's so difficult to stay close to that desire. But desire, a yearning, a ratzon to be connected to Hashem is really above everything else. When an inner desire, the ratzon, is so strong, then it doesn't matter if a person is in the middle of a stadium. It doesn't matter if a person's in the midst of a huge crowd. If he yearns to have this closeness to Hashem, then Hashem's light permeates that person's entire existence and is made available for that person no matter what. So it's so important to remember how important it is to yearn, and Shabbat brings us a renewal of that yearning, that we should have positive desires for everything holy at any time of our life. In fact, the whole idea of yearning on Shabbat, that is the most essential aspect of Shabbat. That's total holiness. When we yearn for Hashem in the middle of the week, essentially what we're doing is we're drawing ourselves back to that Vayechulu moment, of that moment where the entire creation yearns to have that taste of closeness to Hashem. And we get to taste a little bit of Shabbat during the week when we have that desire, that ratzon, to be close to Hashem. When a person yearns to have that closeness to Hashem, to cling to Hashem, let's understand that's a virtue above all virtue. On the seventh day is when the creation renews its yearning for Hashem, just like it did that very first Shabbat in history. So when we yearn, we're essentially connecting back to that first Shabbat in history. The Zohar Kadosh calls Shabbat a day of Emuna. It's the day that we get to ponder and think about what life is all about. Instead of going on that automatic pilot and that everything's set into motion, but we understand that every single week is a renewal. Shabbat renews. Shabbat is the strengthening of that renewal, of that desire to not forget that we need to connect to Hashem. Hashem is not only the creator that created once, but now Chas v'Shalom is not anymore involved in creating, but Hashem is the director of creation right now, on his ongoing decisions, so to speak. All of the actions that go on in the world, they are all a manifestation of Hashem's divine will, and that divine will sustains every single creation at every single moment. What we desire on Shabbat, when we say Vayechulu, is we desire to connect in the most profound way to that concept of Emuna, that Hashem, you run the world, you ran the world, you run the world, you will continue to run the world, and nothing else goes on in this world without your Ratzon. So let's zoom into that, Be'ezrat Hashem, this upcoming Shabbat, when we hear Kiddush and the word Vayechulu. Have a great Shabbat.